Hi, Coach. My name is Olivia, and today I will show you how to create one-off invoices and recurring invoices in CoachVantage. From your dashboard, select Invoices on the left-hand side of your screen. You can invoice clients using the Invoice feature in CoachVantage. There are no limits to how many invoices you can send. In order for clients to pay your invoices online, you must first ensure that you have connected your Stripe or PayPal account to CoachVantage. It's possible to send an invoice without connecting to Stripe or PayPal as well. However, in this situation, your clients will not be able to make the payment online, and you will need to manually reconcile payments. To learn more, please refer to the article titled Connecting to Payment Gateways. In this video, I will be covering the topics of billing to an existing contact or new client, copying to, invoice type, non-recurring or recurring, and the invoice email. First, I will show you how to bill to an existing contact. When you select the Create New Invoice button, you will be brought to this page. To invoice an existing contact, please be sure to select Existing Contact here. Then, you may wish to use the drop-down bar to search your contact list or type in the name of your contact. Once you've selected the contact you wish to bill, the contact's email address is automatically populated in the client email field. CoachVantage will email the invoice to this email address. Now, let's say that you wish to send an invoice to a new client. Select New Client here if you wish to invoice a client that's not currently saved in your contacts. Enter the new client's first name, last name, email address, and then select Save as Contact. Now, this new client will be automatically saved and added to your contacts. Next, let's review the Copy To section of an invoice. Here, you can include recipients other than clients that need to receive the invoice. Recipients do not have to be in your contact list in order to receive the invoice. As a quick tip, this feature is useful if you would like to include stakeholders to receive an invoice. For example, you can add the client's HR manager or finance manager who may need a copy of the invoice, or who may be the persons that make payment for the invoice. To include recipients, type in the name and email of the recipient, and then feel free to add another. You may add up to 3 recipients. Now, let's scroll down and take a closer look at invoice type. First, let's review non-recurring invoices. Select non-recurring invoice if you wish to send a one-time invoice to your client. The invoice number is automatically generated by CoachVantage in sequential order. The very first invoice number starts at 00000001 and has 8 digits. You may customize the invoice number if desired by typing in the invoice number you would like to use. Please note, if you customize an invoice number, the next invoice number that CoachVantage automatically generates will be incremented by 1. Next, the invoice date is the date the invoice was issued. Next, we have the invoice due date. The invoice due date would be the day your contact should make a payment by. You may choose a specific date using the calendar function, or select a time duration from the date of issue. The reference section here is optional. You may enter a reference description for what this invoice is for, such as a purchase order number or a contract name. Scrolling down further, we have the Add Item button. Here is where you can add the service, items, or program you are selling. The total amount due would be automatically calculated. Select Add Items to add item, quality, price, discount, and sales tax. Press Save to save your changes. Lastly, if you have a note you'd like to include in the footer of the invoice, simply type it in the Note to Recipient field shown here. The Note to Recipient section will be automatically populated on your invoice if you have set this up in your invoice and payment settings. You can also edit the note when you create a new invoice. To learn more about the Note to Recipient section, please refer to the article titled Invoice and Payment Settings. Lastly, with this invoice, you can either save it as a draft or select Preview and Send. If you select Preview and Send, a pop-up window of the preview invoice appears, allowing you to review your entries. Once you have confirmed that everything is in order, you can then press Send Invoice at the bottom right-hand corner of the window. Success! The invoice has been sent. Please note that the payment methods available to your client will depend on whether you have connected to Stripe and PayPal. Clients can make payments by credit or debit card or PayPal, respectively. Now that we have reviewed non-recurring invoices, let's take a look at recurring invoices in CoachVantage. Once again, the first step is to select Create New Invoice. Once you have selected an existing contact to send the invoice to, you will see under Invoice Type, you have the option to select non-recurring or recurring. Select Recurring Invoice if you would like to create a recurring invoice series. This feature is useful if you would like to invoice your clients automatically based on a frequency that you define, such as weekly, monthly, etc. Once you have set up a recurring invoice series, CoachVantage will automatically send the invoices based on the billing frequency that you configure in the settings, similar to the non-recurring invoice type. With the recurring invoice type, you'll want to select a first invoice date. This is the date that the very first invoice in the series will be sent to your contact. In the due date section, you can specify the amount of time when the invoice needs to be paid from the date of issue. Here, you can use the drop-down selector or customize the due date by typing the number of days. In this case, I will select after 15 days. Next, select the billing frequency. This specifies the time intervals that CoachVantage should trigger the invoice to be sent. In this example, I will select monthly. Again, in the reference section, you may enter a reference description, but this is optional. And finally, you can select when you would like this recurring invoice to end. Select Never if you want this invoice series to go on indefinitely until you manually cancel the recurring invoice series. Select After a number of occurrences to specify how many invoices should be sent. For example, if you wish to invoice your client 6 times in this series, select 6. The maximum number of occurrence is capped at 50. Next, we will go ahead and add an item. Here's where you can add the service, items, or program you are selling. The total amount due will be automatically calculated. Scrolling down further, you can also add a note to recipient. As a quick tip, the note could indicate your contact details for any inquiries relating to the invoice, thus allowing your client to reach out if they have questions. It could also specify your bank details for clients to make direct bank transfers. When you've finished drafting this recurring invoice, select Save. Fantastic! This invoice has been sent successfully. Here is an example of the email notification that your client would receive when sent an invoice. It's that easy. Thank you for watching this CoachVantage tutorial on how to create one-off invoices and recurring invoices. Have a great week ahead. Happy coaching!